Many years ago, a young man named Joseph found himself in a difficult position. A tale as old as time, yet it never loses its relevance. Joseph, a beloved son, betrayed by his own brothers and sold into slavery. A story that could have ended in bitterness and resentment took an unexpected turn. Joseph found himself in Egypt, far from home, far from everything familiar. Yet, he did not wallow in despair. Instead, he used his gift of dream interpretation, a skill that eventually caught the attention of the Pharaoh. This led to Joseph's rise as the second most powerful man in Egypt, a position he could have used to seek revenge against those who wronged him. Yet, he chose a different path. When famine struck and Joseph's brothers came to Egypt seeking help, they did not recognize the brother they had sold into slavery. And Joseph, he had every right to turn them away, to let them suffer as he had suffered. But he didn't. He chose to forgive. He chose to embrace them. He chose love over hate, mercy over revenge. This decision was not an easy one. It was a crossroads, a moment where he had to decide what kind of man he wanted to be. He chose the path of forgiveness, a sign of making the right decision. A decision that brings peace, not just to ourselves, but to those around us as well. Joseph's story is a testament to the power of forgiveness. It shows us that even in the face of betrayal and hardship, we have the ability to choose. We can choose to hold on to anger and resentment, or we can choose to forgive and move forward. The choice is ours. Every decision we make shapes who we are and who we will become. Let Joseph's story inspire us to make choices that reflect love, forgiveness, and understanding. Joseph's decision to forgive his brothers shows us the importance of forgiveness in making the right decisions. And remember, making the right decisions doesn't mean choosing the easiest path. Often it means choosing the path that leads to growth, understanding, and ultimately, love. In the ancient city of Jericho, a woman named Rahab made a decision that changed her life forever. This wasn't just any decision, but one rooted in faith and courage. Rahab, despite her occupation as a prostitute, chose to protect 2 Israelite spies who had come to scout her city. She hid them from the authorities, risking her own life in the process. But why? What led her to make such a daring decision? Now, Rahab had heard stories of the Israelites and their God. She knew about the miracles performed, like the parting of the Red Sea, and she believed in their God's power. This belief, this faith in the divine, led her to make a decision that would ultimately save her life and the lives of her family. When the city of Jericho was attacked by the Israelites, Rahab and her family were the only ones spared. This was because of the scarlet cord she was instructed to hang from her window, a symbol of her pact with the spies. Her home was the only one left standing amidst the rubble of Jericho. Rahab's story is a testament to the power of faith in decision-making. She could have chosen the easy way out, turned the spies over to the authorities, but she didn't. She chose to believe in their God, to stake her life and the lives of her loved ones on a faith she had only heard about. This faith, this belief in something greater, guided her to make the right decision, even when it seemed the most dangerous one. Rahab's story is a beautiful illustration of the second sign of making the right decision, faith. It shows us that faith can guide us to make decisions that not only impact our lives, but can also save us in our darkest hours. Rahab's decision to have faith in God, even in the face of danger, shows us the power of faith in making the right decisions. In the kingdom of Israel, a shepherd boy named David made a decision that would make him a king. Now, David was no extraordinary figure. He was the youngest and the smallest of his brothers, seemingly insignificant in the grand scheme of things. Yet, he was chosen by God to become a king, a destiny that was far from his humble beginnings. Here, we see the essence of humility. David, despite his humble status, accepted God's will with an open heart. He did not let his perceived worth or the opinions of others deter him from his path. He was not swayed by the glitz and the glamour, the power and the prestige that came with being a king. Instead, he focused on the responsibility that was entrusted to him, the responsibility of leading his people with wisdom and justice. This story of David is a powerful testament to the value of humility in making the right decisions. It tells us that humility is not about belittling oneself or thinking less of oneself. Rather, It is about acknowledging our limitations and understanding that we are part of a bigger purpose. It is about putting aside our ego, our pride, and our personal desires to serve a greater good. Humility enables us to see beyond ourselves. It allows us to listen to others, to accept advice, and to learn from our mistakes. It encourages us to be patient, to be kind, and to be understanding. It reminds us that we are not the center of the universe, that there are other people, other perspectives, and other truths that are just as important as ours. In the story of David, we see how humility guided his decision-making. He did not claim to be the best or the most deserving. He did not let his ego cloud his judgment. Instead, he listened to God's will, he accepted his role, and he led his people with humility and grace. David's decision to accept God's will, despite his feelings of unworthiness, shows us the value of humility in making the right decisions. It tells us that humility is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. It is a virtue that guides us in making decisions that are not just right for us, but also right for others, and ultimately, right in the eyes of God. In our own lives, we face many decisions, just like Joseph, Rahab, and David. We encounter crossroads and turning points, moments that call for faith, forgiveness, and humility. Just as Joseph forgave his brothers, Rahab showed faith in the face of danger, and David humbled himself before God. We too can embody these values in our own journeys. Let's take inspiration from these biblical figures and apply the same principles to our lives. Remember, making the right decisions doesn't necessarily mean making the easiest ones. It involves forgiving those who've wronged us, having faith in times of uncertainty, and humbling ourselves before the challenges we face. As we journey forward, let's strive to make decisions that not only benefit us, but also make Christ happy. Remember, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Go forth and make your decisions with confidence, faith, and humility, for these are the signs that you are on the right path.